Good morning, my friends. Let's begin as always by taking a few deep breaths together. So if you will, exhale everything out and take a deep breath in. And let go. Take another deep breath in and let go. One more deep breath in and letting go. So as you know, our theme this month across CSL is compassionate conduits. And this week specifically, we're going to be talking about how engaged is God as us? How engaged is God as you? How engaged are you in the process that we call creation? And so first I want to talk about this idea of compassionate conduits, but really to focus in on the idea of a conduit. The conduit is something that allows energy to move through it. You know, in building and in the world, we think of conduit as something that we use to channel water or to channel electricity. But if we think about water as consciousness or electricity as life, and each one of us is that conduit, each one of us is the vehicle through which that process is always moving, through which that energy is always flowing. And that in Science of Mind, we remind ourselves always that there is indeed a power for good in this universe that is greater than we are, and we can use it. And I always invite us to say, and it can use us. And that is to say that each one of us is really the place where God, is happening. I often claim the idea that for us and in this conversation that we are continuously engaging in, that God is not a noun, God is not a person, God is a verb. God is something that is happening. And we call it the creative process. I call it creation or evolution. And for each one of us to realize, to really, really, really realize, and find a way to engage in our lives this idea that each one of us is a conduit for universal consciousness, for expression, for evolution, for possibility, for choice. That each one of us is a place where the divine mind of the universe is channeled into an individual. And through the power of our thought, of our choice, of our attention, that we can engage in creation and building the world and creating our lives and unfolding in a direction. And I want to remind us that we've been sort of claiming that 2020 is the year of clear vision. And I have been saying since January of this year, like, let this year, let 2020, let us all gain 2020 insight, 2020 clarity into the true nature of the world that we live in, of how it responds to us, of what it is trying to evoke or show to us, evoke from us or show to us. That indeed each one of us has the opportunity to look out into the world and truly see things as they are. Well, it's now November, moving towards the end of November, it's almost Thanksgiving, and we can begin to look back at 2020, begin to look back at the last year that has unfolded in front of us. And in this idea that everything is God, and as I often say, that everything is a reflection, that the universe is always giving us back to us. That it's true of the individual, but it's also true of the collective, of all of humanity, of our society, of the great story that we're all unfolding in. And so let us begin to look now back at 2020, at all that has emerged in the last year, all that has been evoked from each one of us, all that has been stirred up or disrupted or brought up to question, and really begin to look at it with hindsight. And I've often heard it say that 2020 hindsight, that we can always see better with 2020 hindsight, right? Well, we're reaching the end of 2020, and now we get to look back with this 2020 clarity that we've developed and earned. Really, each one of us has earned the clarity that has emerged around us. Even though it may appear to be distortion, I want to posit that we all begin to really place into our minds this awareness that what's actually happening is that everything is rising up to be seen. all of the things that need our attention, all of the things that we need to be focusing on, all of the things that are necessary for our participation in creation in order to actually move to take the idea of our vision of a world that works for everyone and bring it into form so that we exist in a world that works for everyone, so that we build a world that works for everyone, so that we've spent a lot of time calling it in, and now let us bring it forward. And so look back at the last year. And as you move into the holiday season, I want to invite each one of us to really be in a deep reflection and a deep contemplation that asks this question. If I could name one thing that 2020 has taught me, has disturbed in me, has moved in me, has evoked from me, and I'm saying that whether that is a passion that has been brought up, whether that is something in yourself that needs attention, whether that is a deep anger, whether that is a sense of confusion about something that you see in the world, maybe something has been ignited in you and you're clear about something you want to begin. Maybe something has been broken or disturbed inside of you that really needs your attention. But look deeply and ask the question, what is the one thing? If I could name one most impactful thing that has been stirred up in me this year, and do not label it positive or negative, whatever the one thing is, the biggest thing, the thing that needs the most attention, the thing that stirred up your energy in the biggest way, whether it's brought you to fear or whether it's ignited you to passion, whatever that one big energy that's begun to show up in your life, and it's something has been disturbed, something has been moved, something has been brought up for every single one of us by all that has unfolded in the last 10.5 months before this. And I want to say that whatever that one thing is, whatever's been brought up for you the most, that's been brought into your awareness or your attention, that is an indicator. It is a call. It is an invitation from the you that is always calling you from who you could be and saying, come be me, come be me. I really believe that each one of us has been shaken this year, and in front of us, right in front of us, if we're willing to look at it, is the one thing that we need to work on in order to change everything, is the one step that we can take to begin to move towards a world that works for everyone. I really truly believe that if we want to live in a world that works for everyone, it is going to take everyone. And I have a deep belief, the story that I live within is an idea that tells me that every single person has a unique gift, has a unique genius, has a unique particular view or perspective or creative ability or idea or understanding or way of doing something. Every one of us has something that is so unique to us. And I believe that there is a gift that exists waiting to be given. And that much of the distortion in the world that we have seen is each one of us not fully living in our gifts. It's not fully living in our passion, not fully living in our possibility, but living in all the stories that confine us, all of the conditions that confine us. And we're realizing that there are many conditions that we've been perpetuating in the world that have been purposely confining many other people. And so we need to be able to start to look at our lives, look at the world, look at all of it as a mirror, and begin to ask from that reflection, what piece of this is mine? And if something has been disturbed in you, where you see within yourself there's something that you need to look at, something you need to explore or work on or grow or change, then begin there. Because as you do so, you begin to integrate that one piece into yourself. And I really believe that if God is all there is, then that means that everything is everything, that everything is part of the one thing. And I've been saying recently that if everything is everything, then start anywhere. Start working on any one thing that needs your attention, that's calling on you, saying, look at this. Let us explore this. Begin to really ask and contemplate the question, what is mine to do right now? And I know for many people, something has been stirred up, and awareness has been stirred up, and awakening has happened. That there is something in the world that needs your attention. That there is an issue, that there is a problem, that there is a solution, that there is some way of doing or being that needs great attention on the collective part. And many of us are beginning to recognize that there is something that we can do to participate in the great turning that is taking place right now. And if that's you, then begin to follow that. Because I really do believe that if any of us have ever believed in these ideas that some of us have called the dawning of the age of Aquarius, or what we thought was coming with the end of the Mayan calendar in 2012, or if you've ever believed in the second coming of Christ or the Great Awakening, I really believe that this is what it would look like. Look at the world. Every single thing is changing. We are being brought to what things are rising up from our subconscious, from our collective conscious, that is showing us the truth of who we are and where our healing is needed. But what if this is the moment where every single one of us, for every one of us, that our attention is grabbed by something? And Ernest Holmes tells us that it's not every single thought that manifests. It's not the idea that if we just think a thought, it's going to show up. He says it's the sum total of our thinking that manifests. But if there's one thing that we are so passionate about that it overwhelms our thinking, that it's the thing that we start waking up and every day and going to sleep and dreaming about and contemplating, the one problem that we want to solve, or the one story that we want to tell, or the one thing that we want to engage in, that if we can find something that can capture our whole attention, so that the sum total of our thoughts begins to wrap around, really truly wrap around and engage in and participate in one project, one idea, one dream, one prayer. There is almost 8 billion people on this planet, and soon to be many, many more. What if every single one of us was taught? What if we began to build a culture that told us that if you just focus on the one thing that is yours to do, that comes from within you, that is the way that God is seeking to express itself into the world, that is the way that the universe is refracting into possibility through one particular lens, through one particular pattern, and that lens, that pattern, is you. And there is something that only you can bring into the world. What if that was the story that we told each other? What if that was the core of the spirituality that we were trying to evoke from each other and from the world and from ourselves? Saying that there is one thing that is happening everywhere, and that thing is God. But God is a process. God is a verb, that each one of us is in the process of Godding, that we are God waking up. We are the universe realizing itself. And what if every one of us has a unique view, a unique perspective, a particular angle in through and to which we can see and create? And the greatest potential emerges when each one of us is living in our calling, in our bliss, in our passion, in our genius. And then we begin to overlap with others who are doing what they are here to do as well. I often hold this idea in mind that the world in front of us is like a painting, like a picture, like an image on a puzzle box. And that this moment of great change, all the puzzle pieces have been shaken up and have been disturbed, if you will, and thrown everywhere. And the task at hand is for every single one of us to go in search of our puzzle piece, of our one piece of the puzzle, the one thing that we can give our attention to, the one thing that we can give our life to, the one thing that we can focus on. Even if it starts with focusing on ourselves and dissecting the privilege or the racism or the classism or the anger or the whatever that we see inside of us. Because if we start to wrap around that and focus on that and heal that, then we can be much more effective because we see ourselves so much more clearly, and then we can find what's next for us. I believe that whatever's been stirred up, whatever your piece of the puzzle is, that life, that spirit, that the universe, that 2019, that COVID, that politics, that whatever has happened in the last year for you, whatever is being brought up the most, that is your higher self, what Gene Houston would call your entelechy, which is the one who is always standing before you, saying, "Come be me." Ernest Holmes says that there is a presence that goes before you, that makes the way easy and clear, that tells you when to act, when to speak, what to do, and how to do it. I do want each one of us to contemplate that perhaps there is one standing in front of each one of us who has always been there, always guiding us forward in our life, calling us towards our personal evolution, calling us towards the collective evolution, calling us towards who we could be. And oftentimes that voice shows up in our mind as our dreams, as our goals, as our passions, as our intentions. But I think it also shows up as our irritation, as our frustration, as our anger, as our depression, as our fear, as that voice in our head that tells us that we could be more, or that we should have done something differently, or that we did something wrong. That all that exists within us is actually there to inspire us, to call us forward. And so look into yourself. Look into the world. Look in the mirror, and in the metaphorical mirror, and begin to ask, contemplate, be with one question, which is, what is mine to do? Or what has been brought up for me this year? Or what needs my attention right now? Or something to that effect. And begin to just let that question roll around in your mind if it isn't clear already. For many of us, we can probably look at our lives, at our circumstances, at the world around us, at all that is happening, and probably point at one thing that really has our attention more than anything else. There's something there for every single one of us. And I'm saying, look at it. Begin to ask questions about it. Begin to see where your work is in relationship to this thing. And if everything is everything, and God is all there is, then start anywhere. Focus, focus, focus on one thing. And claim that as the thing that you are willing to participate moving forward. And if this year of disturbance and beautiful chaos and awe-inspiring unfortunate circumstances is actually the moment of the great turning, then just imagine for a moment that this is year 0 and that next year is year 1. What would you do if this was the beginning of a new paradigm? What is the one thing you would want to bring into the new world, or into a world that works for everyone? There's a possibility that we may never go back to things as they were before, or as normal. Of course, things are going to change, and things will go away eventually, but maybe not. The world is changing. Everything is being brought up for our examination. What if the time is now for us to start doing things differently, and actually start stepping into the world that we're claiming that we want to see? And so if we are about to step into year 1 of the new paradigm, what's your one piece? What's your one thing? What's the thing that you're going to focus on? And wrap your entire spiritual practice, wrap your entire attention around it, to begin to focus on it with everything that you do, to bring it deep into your awareness, your contemplation. If there's one thing that's been brought up for you this year. What is it? And then begin to ask yourself, what do I do with this? So if you will, take a deep breath in and let go. And so together, let us just be in the awareness that there is only one thing happening, and that one is God. That God presence is living and breathing throughout the entirety of the universe. That it is unfolding everything, every when, everywhere, and it always has. Across all time and space, across past, present, and future, across all possible timelines, all realities, in every single one of our lives, across the whole of our existence. There's only one thing happening, and I call it God. It is the universe. It is consciousness. It is life itself. And so let each of us remain wholly in and be breathed by and participate in the awareness that we are the place where this God process is happening. And that in this moment of great change, of great transition, of great apparent turmoil, that each one of us is being handed a gift, and that gift is a question. That gift is an invitation for us to take one step in a direction, to focus on one thing, to begin to give our attention, our life force, our energy, our thought process, our consciousness, our choices to one angle in the direction of a dream. And that dream is of a world that works. A world that works for everyone, for all of life, a harmonious, thriving planet. And the only way to get there is together. And so I claim, know, and declare that there is one piece of the puzzle available to each one of us, and that we find it, that we look for it, that we be available to it, and that when it shows up, we say yes. In gratitude, remembering that our life is celebration when we choose to engage in it. That indeed, if God is all there is, we must engage, because it is who we are. And so let us just remember that this presence is a power for good in the universe, greater than we are, seeking to express through us as our lives. And so it is. Thank you, friends.